Bordeaux, and today we're going to be diving into log analytics. So you should be able to see my screen. This is the Azure portal, of course. One of the things that people don't typically pick up first is you really need log analytics. It provides kind of a baseline, okay? Everybody wants logging. They want to be able to tell what's going on, where it's happening, when it's happening, and you want to get those alerts. Log analytics is the logging tool that's going to allow you to analyze those and alert on them. You can, of course, also use a third-party tool and use an event hub to send it over there. That can work too. This is the Microsoft way to do it. You can also use Power BI and send everything to a storage account, and then you're having to kind of go through and build your reports and get those things. Those are great for doing reports, right? And that's what they're really for. So if you need a way to provide a report to typically executives and say, hey, here's our status and what's going on and how things are going, that's great. But from a technical side, you're going to want log analytics so you can look at things and get those alerts so you know what's going on. So let's dive in. You can, of course, jump in here and type log analytics, and it'll bring you up to a log analytics workspace if you have any. You can create them, and then you will need to go into the diagnostic settings and start sending logs to it. For what we're doing, we are going to use a demo, right? So this is the Microsoft demo for log analytics. You can get to it through this specific URL, which I'm going to put in the comments here, so you don't have to memorize or try to write this down. The other way to find it is if you come to the log analytics tutorial, there is a link to it under prerequisites, right? So you can come in here and look at that. This also gives you some great information about kind of how it works. We're going to take a look at some of this. So the first thing you get to, you come up, you'll see on the left, you have your solutions. All right, you can group by category, resource type, or solution. Right, and this tells you if you're looking for something specific, what it has under it. So for instance, Kubernetes service, you can come in here and see you've got kube events, your inventories, kube services, performance on your nodes. So you can come in for all kinds of stuff. And since this is the demo, it has a lot of this already there. So let's take a look at what we can do with it, right? So for our first one, let's look at kube events. So the way this works is you put in a table, right, or a chart of what you're trying to get to. So you start typing, it'll start popping up names, right? So you just press enter and it adds in. Now you get this pipe symbol down here, which is the shift and the button above the enter key, and you'll get that pipe. This is how you push things together, okay? So we're going to look at kube events. Now for time range, you can set it up here, or you can set it in the query. So this is using Custo query language. So it's a little different. It's kind of SQL-ish. But what we're going to do is we're going to say we want table kube events, and we want to filter this. You're going to want to filter as soon as possible in your query because it's going to give you better performance. Now, we can come in here and we can say, well, we want where time generated is greater than, and if you do a go, this will give you this time span block. So we can say 1D for 1 day. You can say 30 M for minutes. So we're going to leave this at 1D for 1 day. Now, you can keep going. You can keep adding in where statements in here, right? So you can go through and see what kind of information you want. For what we're doing, we want to get some results. So we're going to execute this. You can either click this run, or you can hold shift and press enter, and that'll run the query. Now, as you see here, we've got 2,141 records. Okay. and then they're shown down here. If you scroll over, you'll see all the fields and everything. Or you can just click this little down arrow right here. Now, as you do this, you can see what these fields are here. Right, so say I want where is within a day, and where the computer name is this AKS Linux pool. And as you'll see down here, all these are exactly that. Now this gives you a bunch of information. So say I don't want all this information. I only need a few things, right? So let's do this, where the reason equals, I want it to say failed. Right? We're only going to return things where the reason is failed. Now, those are our where statements, and you can kind of chain these together if you want. I prefer having them line by line. Now, we're going to come down, and I don't want all these fields. So I'm going to use project. Project is how I'm going to limit it. Right? So the same instance if you're doing PowerShell, like where you're doing format table or select object, right? Same kind of thing. So now this is important. When you start typing, make sure you let it auto pop up and then press enter. Otherwise, sometimes you get these weird errors in here. So we're going to come in here and we're going to say computer, object kind. We want to know what namespace it's for. And I'm using a comma to delimitate these. We want the name. Right. So we can up and down arrow in here and then press enter. We want the reason and we want the message. Okay. Now, of course, on these, you're going to want a time generated. Right? We know exactly when it came in. Okay, so this gives us some basic information. Now, if we run it, we're going to come back and you see we've limited what our response is. Right, and it's very quick. It's 0.6 of a second, right? And you're only getting 203 records instead of 2,000. So you've got your where statements in there to kind of break it down for you. And then you've got only the information you want to see. And if you expand this, you see it's only here. Right? Now, if we want to come in here and say, you've got your namespace, you've got your name, your reason, your message, right? Well, what if I don't like where it says time generated, right? That it's just long for me. So I'm going to say time equals time generated. Now, when we run this again, you'll see it change time generated to just time. Okay, so you can do that. You can put in here, I want to rename this field, right? Object kind, right? So I want to change object kind to just say object. And then I put the word I want it to say, and then equals that field. Now we've got that. Now there's a few other things you can do in here. Render lets you put in these charts if you need to. I don't use this much. We got to add something that has an integer in it to do it. I don't use them because I want to look at this, right? I want to be able to see this information. Now, this doesn't do me much good having time generated at the end. So let's do time generated at the beginning. Then we're going to say time And then we're going to change computer to say VM. Then object, the namespace. All right, we're going to change this to microservice just because I think it'll be cooler. And then our reason and our message. Now, since we're doing that, let's take out that where statement to limit it for the computer. All right. We're going to take out where it's failed. We want to see all the records, but we want to see them instead of 1 day, we want 30 minutes. Now here we go. Now we've got the different information, what's going on with microservices, what the reason is. So now we can see these back off, system OM, failed mounts, right? So this is great, but I mean, do you really want to come type all this, right? You don't. So you can save these. You can't save it in this one because it's a demo, right? But what you can do is you can say, okay, normally I would pin this to a dashboard, right? This is a demo, so you can't really do that, right? But that's what you would do is you would come to your dashboards. So this is a basic dashboard, right? Well, let's edit this. We can come in here and we can get rid of all this stuff, right? So we don't really need all this. Get rid of that, get rid of that. Well, let's do this. I want some markdown in here so I can put a title in here for what it is. I can put a logo if I want, right? So I'm going to put Kubernetes cluster. And then for subtitle, I usually put the cluster name in here so you know what it's for. All right, now I've got this very simple thing. You can also do this by using HTML code. All right, then I can pull this in here and I can say, well, I'm going to want my resource groups in here. I'm going to want to know what they are. Right, I shouldn't have that many, so I'll make this kind of small. Then as we come down, so you can do resource graphs for a single value if you want to pull something out. So we can pull this out, then we can configure it, we can name it, we can say, okay, I want to know how many restarts my pods have had in 24 hours. I could write a query that would then return that value and put it in this box. Okay. Here's the chart title. Same kind of thing, except you're going to return a chart. All right, so you could do that. All right, you can put videos in here, resource graphs, all kinds of stuff, right? So if we do that, we save that. Now I don't have anything in here that's going to return anything, right? Because I don't have any resources created right now in this tenant. But what we can do is go back to our dashboard. Now, once you get this, you could then pin this to that dashboard, and then you could have it show up here somewhere. Put it wherever you want, decorate it however you want, right? You can make these look really cool and present a lot of very good, valuable information. So that's how I use them. I figure out what it is I want to use or what I want to look at for the different things, and then I build a bunch of dashboards, right? So I have some for my Kubernetes clusters. Usually I have one dashboard per cluster. If I have multiple clusters, so that I can just pick one and say, well, I need to check what's going on. I can immediately pull up error messages. I can pull up performance data, right? So I could pull this up. This is looking at the perf table, right? So you can pull it up and see what's going on, filter this stuff down. One trick in here is if you're doing this, our performance, and we're projecting this information out, right? Well, let me show you what it looks like before any kind of formatting. You get these really long numbers that don't mean a whole lot to people, right? So you can do a format byte size. and put counter value in here. And then it's going to automatically format these into bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, terabytes. Right? So you'll have that in there. So that helps a lot. And so I can put my where statements in here, right? Generated. Now I can do where counter name equals, then we can pull out specific things. All right, so let's see. What do we have in here that we would want to look at? Memory capacity, memory limit. Where is there's a memory available one in here. All right, well, we'll just use this one for now. So we'll pull this in, let's get rid of the extra space. See, now we can pull this up and you get a little bit more data, right? And we've got integers in here. We could start graphing stuff out if we wanted to. So this gives us good, valuable data, right? Now, the other one you can do is, let's change project. Now it's going to pull up distinct, right? So there's uniqueness to this. All right, so that helps if you're trying to break things down a little bit. You can also come in here, you can group your columns. So you can drag things up here and say, well, I want to group them by computer. All right, now you'll look in here and see that we have 26 records, but we only have these specific nodes. Right? We only got 5 nodes. So now you can break it down and see where they're using it, right? So your memory limits, where they're coming in. Typically, I do this for like available memory, that kind of stuff. But it helps a lot. And you can always throw in charts and whatnot. Then I would pin this there, right? You can also export this to CSVs if you need to, export it to Power BI, right? You can use Power BI to look at this stuff. And then if you look over here, let's see, resource type, right? So some of these come in quite handy because you can look at virtual machines, you can get logs, security events, baselines, VM connections. This is a good one. Look at VM connection. There we go. So now you'll see there's all these inbound connections, what the process is, where it's coming from, where it's going to. Right? You even get in here for, should be a destination country in here somewhere. So links established, remote, how much traffic sent. You can come in and say, well, here, let's do this. Where time generated. So we're going to do 30 minutes. Right? Make sure we got some data coming back to look at. Great. Now we can look at generated, right? But we want this to say time. We want the computer. We want the direction, the process name, let's do source destination. There we go. Destination IP, destination port, protocol. Let's see what else we got in here that we would want to look at. There's the machine, process, agent ID. All right, that should be good. Now we can come in here where direction equals there we go. Now we're only looking at inbound connections coming in. All right, so we can see what's going on with it. So this can be very important for your security guys when you're looking at this. That's definitely something that I always have pinned to a dashboard somewhere. But you can do security baseline, security events, all kinds of stuff, right? So one of the things that we always do, I always do anyway, is we'll have an Azure activity, and we want to look at what's going on when things are created, right? You want to know about that, right? All right, looks like we don't have any in here, mainly because it's a demo. But you can do a query that will look at the Azure activity logs. And this is assuming you're sending them to the log analytics account or the workspace. And then you can pull it out and say, well, I want to know anytime somebody creates a public IP. So you can put that in there and say, I want to know about that. I want to know when a network security rule is changed. I want to know when port 3389 is allowed through, right? And you can have this, create these alerts and send them to your phone. If you have the app, you can have them send to the app. You can have them send to your email, right? So there's tons and tons of things you can do with these, right? Public IPs, you can pull that up. You can get recovery service vault failures. Anytime that you click create an alert, it's using this in order to do that. It's using these kind of queries, right? So I hope this has been somewhat helpful. This is kind of a quick, fast intro into what log analytics is for, what it can do, right? And then I will deploy out some resources so that we can pick up and look at what these dashboards can do, right? So stay tuned for future videos, future articles. If you have ideas, questions, anything you want to know, let me know. Drop a comment, shoot me an email, send me a carrier pigeon. Check out our website, randybordeaux.com. And if you don't want to look at the videos on Azure, check out the photography. It's always something cool to look at. Thank you, everyone, and come back and see us.